Hi, we're back with another episode of Unauthorized Final Cut Pro 10. I'm Mike Matzdorf.
I'm Mike Yanovich.
And we're here today to talk to you about the browser. Last episode was a general overview of the whole thing. And this one is going to be very focused on Final Cut 10 browser and what it does. Now,
you know what?
Right now,
the browser, by the way, the browser is the least sexy part of the entire edit system. The timeline's the most sexy, but the browser is the least sexy. But it's very important. I mean, it's your accountant. It's the guy with the tie and the glasses. I mean, I'm going stereotypes here, but it's very unsexy, but very important. So we know this isn't, the glamour, but we got to know it.
This is not the glamour, but it's full of good ideas, much like your accountant.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So let's get into it. On the screen, you see the typical Final Cut 10 layout. And what I'm going to do is just get rid of the timeline by clicking over here.
By the way, I cannot see your screen right now.
You can't?
Well, I'm looking at a Zoom meeting.
Huh. Anyway, okay. After this technical debacle, we're back. We're looking at Final Cut Pro 10 it's pretty much a straight up layout. And what I'm going to do, because we're focusing on the browser, which is in the upper left, I'm going to just hide the timeline by clicking this button up here once. And also minimizing this window a little bit so we can see more of the browser. So this is the browser. This is where all of your footage goes, all of your synced clips goes, all of your cuts go. And we're going to go through every little bit and piece of it today. So on the left-hand side is the libraries, which are akin to projects. Again, first thing you might notice here is there are multiple libraries open right now. So you can have a bunch of different stuff open. And we're only going to focus on one of these guys, but let's look at the Feed the Fish library. List of libraries here. You also notice this little arrow here. So inside each library, when it's made, it comes with one event, which is what this is, and this thing called Smart Collections. So just starting from the top down, what's a Smart Collection? It's a custom built filter. This comes with a few filters, and I've also added one. You can define the parameters for these filters by double clicking on them and set them up for yourself. So right now, this is a project that includes the text MM, my initials.
And so, remember, project in this case, in Final Cut terminology, is equivalent to sequence in any other system on the planet.
Correct.
But, it is what it is.
It is what it is. So this cut, because it happens to have my initials on it, is going to show up in this list. If I click on this one, which is just project, it's going to show me all the projects. Now, these are infinitely customizable. You can make your own. I tend to make one that says, if a cut says WIP, work in progress, it's going to show up somewhere. Or archive, it's going to show up somewhere else. Something like that. So you can quickly tag your stuff with text, and then it's going to be filtered in these smart collections.
And this will only show projects in the library you're checked on, so it would not show projects in the other libraries you have open at the same time, correct?
Correct. These are library-wide smart collections. Moving on down the line, this is an event. This is akin to a bin, and you're going to have a bunch of events for a bunch of different things. They're completely flexible. This one I named edits with a little hash up there so it rises to the top. This has my cuts in it. And if I double click those cuts, they're going to open up into a timeline. This is a dailies event. It's got a bunch of raw footage. It's got a bunch of sound. You'll notice across the board here a bunch of metadata for all this stuff. And this is the first thing you'd get over the course of the day. You can prep it. This event has a bunch of synced clips that were made from the previous event that I just showed you. Again, part of your daily prep. Down here,
what triangles are next to the other clips?
Yes, I do. This shows keywords and folders that are inside events. We're going to get into keywords a little bit later in this conversation, but just so you know, metadata is sort of key to Final Cut, and there's all sorts of tags that you can attach to moments, footage, shots that helps you sort it out later. So we're going to get into that. So down here, this is basically a prepped scene, and these are all my takes in order. Some of them have been notated with keywords, as Mike mentioned. And so these are my scenes one at a time. Now, another cool thing about this, if I want to look at the dailies from several scenes, I can just shift select them, and it's going to show up in a big long list like this. Now,
I didn't know you could do that either. That's cool.
Wow, there you go. So in these events, you're looking at a list of stuff. If you wanted to look at at thumbnails, which is pretty common, you can click up here. You see these thumbnails for people. Now, because Final Cut has skimming, you can sort of skim across the thumbnails. And another interesting feature of these thumbnails is they're more than thumbnails. So if you want to
even go past that, I want to talk the skimming.
Yeah.
I mean, we're used to this. We take it for granted now. But you can just move your mouse over all those clips and see them all instantly. Avid, Premiere, anything else I've used, every one of those you want to see what's in it, aside from the thumbnail, you got to double click and load it into your source monitor. Every time. So 6-7 clips.
Resolve does skimming. Yeah. Resolve does skimming.
It's not hugely time consuming, but what a time saver to just move your mouse over and see what's in the shot.
Right, and you can also play through these from this point and have it just jump from one shot to the next shot to the next shot without stopping. So if you want to just watch all your dailies in one throw, you could do that. You have, with these clips though, if you want to sort of extend them out, there's a setting over here where you can now see more. So these are the same clips, but they're just spread out, so you can kind of see where something goes. The custom used to be in Avid, if you had, let's say, a setup that was a big pan from over here to over there, you would set up these thumbnails, like one's at the beginning and then one's a little further down and one's a little further down, so you could get the sense of like where the shot goes. But this sort of saves you the trouble of that, where you can see where these shots are going.
So you have a director over your shoulder saying, I know somewhere in here, there's a part where we shot this and the actor hadn't walked in, we have the frame empty, and instead of loading all the clips, you just zoom into your timeline, you expand the clips, and you see the entire shot. Again, another time saver. Right,
right. And the clips that you're looking in here are all pretty much synced clips. There's a couple edits up here. There's I'm going to go back to the list view so we can take a look at the difference in the icons. So this is an edit. This is sound only. This is picture only. Here, let me just click on them so you can see. Sound only, picture only. This is a synced clip. And down here is a multicam clip. And there's a couple other kind of clips that we're going to get into. Just as long as we're on multicam clips, one thing that it's tough in Avid in particular is you make a multicam clip, group clip, and you make it and it's made. You can't do anything with it after it's made. You can't add anything. You can't adjust anything. You can't fix anything. You just got to make it again. And so the multicam clips here can be fiddled with, added to, and if you just double click on a multicam clip, these are the guts of the multicam clip.
This is a sync. After you've edited with this, if you forgot to put an audio track in there, if one of their microphones isn't in there, and you add it later, it will propagate into the edit you've already done. You don't have to redo your cut.
Right. They're persistent. They're globally persistent through your library. So if you make a change in a multicam clip, say add an extra angle, add some more sound, change sync on something, it's going to ripple through everything you've done. And there's another kind of another kind of clip called a compound clip that does the same thing, and we're going to talk about those in a minute. Now, as long as we're talking about kinds of clips, I want to bring up auditions, because auditions are this, it's kind of like a way to watch multiple takes of something or try out multiple takes of something with a little bit of a different slant on it. So
Love Audition. I use them all the time. And this is not like for the actors in the audience who are having a stroke right now because they don't want to deal with another audition. You're not going to fail this audition. It's not the casting director not going to call you. This is the good kind of audition. You're good with this.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my Smart Collection up here, the one with my cuts in it. And I'm just going to double click this guy. And what I've done down here is I built this little thing where people are walking from the start of the car to the end of the car, and then they will look at the car, go away, and then they're standing there. So now I know I've got the absolute best part of the car going away and the absolute best going for the people coming together, but here I'm just not sure. And so what this allows you to do, I'm going to up arrow, and that takes me to the head of the take, and I'm going to play by hitting the space bar. So all right, I'm watching this one, and now if I do Control Option right arrow, it's going to take me to the next one. And I'm going to go back just so you can watch the timeline. Watch what happens. It contracts and it expands. Now, it expands because this one took a little bit longer to do. So it's going to adjust sync on things based on the takes. And if I want to check out the next one, I can just go to the next one and go to the next one. And so I'm able to sort of audition all five takes on this move and then see which one works best for me. And when I'm done with the audition, I can just flatten it and it puts the good one in there.
We saw that presentation at one of the events you and I spoke at, where they edited WTF, the Tina Fey movie, on this. There's a point where she is in the desert in the middle of a war zone and goes to go to the bathroom behind a cactus or something. And they have about 20 different funny lines that they tried to, and the editor put them all in. And they could jump from one to the next, and the shorter ones compress the timeline, the longer ones open it, but they're all there to be looked at a moment's notice. And it's a really powerful tool.
Right, and so the idea would be, like, you got to kind of use your imagination for this. What would you use it for? In this particular instance, I made a keyword called walk, and that was just these sections, just the walks. And so then I selected all of them and right-clicked and say create audition. So that made this take down here, which has all of the takes inside of it.
I didn't know you could do that either. I would take my clip one at a time, drag it into the timeline, and replacing that to audition. I'm learning some shortcuts here. This is it's like any editing system. You learn the first way, and then you learn the advanced way as you go. This is a new trick.
I just have way too much time on my hands.
Boom, one more.
Well, one thing that's nice about this, and you mentioned the Tina Fey movie where they had a bunch of different lines, and in comedies, everybody improvises like crazy. I think this would be really handy in animation too, because there's a lot of improvising off the cuff stuff. And so if you have 10 readings of a line, your poor assistant can go and just prep them by making auditions for each line, and then just cut all the auditions together, and then you can go through and figure out, oh yeah, I like take 1, take 5, take 7, take 2, what, and just go back and forth and build your scene that way. If you're really lazy and want to torture your assistant, because it's. But in any case, you could keyword your lines. You could then build auditions from that. It's pretty interesting stuff.
And you could use this to track multiple visual effects. If back. And then the first version, and then the fifth version can all be in the clip, and you're only looking at the newest one. But if you need to go back to a previous one and you built them as an audition, it's designed for one thing, but you can use a lot of these tools any way you can think of it. And this is
right. And I think I was just checking to see if I think you can do it with just sound also. So if you had music cues that you wanted to try out, you could do it in the same way. Just build them into an audition.
I've never tried that.
Yeah. So a little while ago, we talked about another kind of clip that has like global persistence. So if you change it one place, it changes everywhere. An example for that, I'm just trying to give you guys some examples of what's happening. This is a compound clip. This is a nest. Most systems let you nest video. Most systems don't let you nest audio. Resolve does, Final Cut does in a much better way. So I'm just going to run down to the timeline here for a sec. And what I've done here is all of these effects, and I'll just highlight them for you by clicking on the effects roll in the timeline index here. So everything is sort of lit up there.
Watching sound here.
Are the sound effects. Now, this is a background that I built for this dining room, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, it's fine. The scene's not going to change in length. I just want to put all that stuff in one container. So right now, I'm going to click over here, and I'm going to enable the audio lanes for that track. So everything sort of spreads things out a little bit. I'll show you that again. And now I'm just going to select all this stuff. Here we go. And then do Option G. And what that does is it's going to make a compound clip, and I'm going to call this Dining BG. And now what it does, it just takes it and sandwiches it all into one thing. So if I want to just mute the background so I can hear the dialogue, hear what's going on, I can just mute that clip and then go about my business. And because this is one of my favorite features in Final Cut is you can mute individual clips, which you can do in other systems as well, but you can also solo individual clips. So Option S is just going to solo those effects, or solo the individual clip that you're clicked on. So the compound clip lets you nest picture or sound or both together and deal with it in a different way. And now this compound clip called Dining BG, let's just hide that timeline
Background
again.
sound.
Yeah, right. And so I'm just going to click at the top level here, Dining BG. So that's that clip. And now I can use that next time I come back to the restaurant. So this particular stuff, scene 90 is in the restaurant, and scene 120 is in the restaurant. And so I could just, you know, reuse the background. We'll fix it later when we're doing post sound. But that lives on forever there. And so if you ever decide you want to get rid of it, let's see if I can remember. Command-Shift-G breaks it up and puts it back where it was.
Let me give you another example here, a real world one. I did a commercial edit, and we had, you know, like commercials, you're going to have you have the 30-second version, the 20-second version, the 15s, and you have multiple markets, so they have different phone numbers. I mean, it's one of those where there's 20 versions of the same edit. But the graphics kept changing. They didn't know what the end graphic was going to look like. So I built it as a compound clip. And anytime I would change it in any of the edits, because I put that compound clip of the end graphics, so I'm talking the background, the logo, any transitions, I put that at the end of each commercial. And when I made a change to one of them, it changed in every single edit I'd already done. I didn't have to rebuild it. As long as that graphic was the same for all of them, it was a one-time change, and it was instantly in every single edit I'd done. So it's a really powerful tool that way. You could also compound clip an entire scene in a film. You can compound clip the whole first act of a film if you want. If you want to move, you know, a couple of complicated scenes, you want to move them around, just make them a compound clip, swap the order if you feel like it. There's a lot of uses for this.
There is, and it's interesting because unintentional, great segue, Mike. Thank you for that. There's going to be the time where you don't want it to ripple back.
Yes.
You want to say, where were we a month ago? And you want to just look at where you were without having the graphics updated or the storyboards updated or anything updated that you have inside of a compound clip.
This do that?
And
Final Cut do that?
And it can do that.
Wow.
And so the next thing on my list here was to talk about projects, which are sequences. And there's a feature called snapshotting. So what you can do here is anytime you duplicate a project, you can do Command D, or you can right click here and say duplicate project. It's just going to make a new copy, and you can version up whatever. But you can also duplicate project as a snapshot, which is a snapshot in time. So it is what it does is it freezes all the compound clips, all the multicam clips that are attached to that particular project. So if you update a compound clip later, that one's not going to update. So if you want to know where you were at a particular point in time, this is a great tool for that. So that's snapshotting projects. And projects are cuts. We talked a little bit about this before, so let's just quickly run through the kinds of clips, and hopefully I'm not missing anything. We got clips that are video and audio. We got just video, just audio. Those are kind of plain clips. Then there's sync clips, which you can attach sound to. There's ways to sync in Final Cut or external bulk syncing through another piece of software called Sync and Link X. Multicam clips, which can have, I've had multicam clips up to 16 angles, and we're gonna get into that in detail a little bit later. Auditions, compound clips, and then cuts, sequences, projects, whatever you want to call them. So, is there anything we missed right there?
I don't think so. There's a lot.
Okay.
A lot of clips.
Okay, yeah, it is a lot. The more we talk about it, the more it seems like
browser holds a lot of information.
That's a lot. The browser it's a way to filter. It's a way to organize. It's a way to ingest. It's a way to annotate. And so let's get into that a little bit. Let's say, for example, you want to import into your library. You've got a day and you want to bring it in. This button up here is going to bring you your import window, and you can select whatever you like and import it into a new event or a old event. You can copy the files into the library. You can leave them in place. You can add keywords from Finder tags and folders. XML data will attach to sound components. You make proxy media, which is awesome, and we're going to get to the proxy media thing later. If you have a bunch of crazy formats, you can ask it to optimize the media, so it'll turn everything into ProRes for you. It takes a lot of space, but it makes editing a lot easier. And this analysis stuff, I've never used it on the way in. It takes a long time, but it's there. Importing, syncing. If you wanted to sync, I used Sync and Link X to sync all this stuff in here. That works by time code. If you're just thinking about syncing something and you know exactly where, what goes with what, you can say, okay, well, this shot syncs with this, and you could right click and say synchronize clips, and it gives you a starting time code, which is the video time code, and use the audio for synchronization. You can customize all this stuff. So there's ways to make sync clips a couple of different ways, and the same thing with like, for example, the multicam clips. Where is the multicam? Okay, so the D setup here is multicam. AB, I already made the multicams, but if you take these two sync clips, so you're looking at a couple of different, you're looking at a sync piece of media and a sync piece of media that you're going to then put together into a multicam clip. So it's got the good sound in both take individually and in the multicam clip as well. So
again, we're not doing a full tutorial. There's lots of tutorials out there showing you how to do this. We're just giving broad overviews. Broad
overview. So make multicam clips one at a time that way, or use Sync and Link X to make them in bulk. It relies on time code, not waveforms. And there's always a little bit of adjustment that needs to come with that, just because of the inherent offsets that come with production. No one's exactly jammed all the time. So ways to organize. We've done some stuff here. We put scenes into events. So all of the particular shots for a particular scene are in their own container, their own event. That's sort of one level of this. Now, if you are old-fashioned and you go through and watch your dailies, you can look at your shots and say, all right, look at all this business up here before action. All right, so
you're never going to use any shot with a slate in it.
Right. Yeah. I'm just going to select that and hit the delete key. Now, what it does is it just trims the slate off, and I'm going to go over here just for a little demo. So this is the head stuff that we don't care about. This is the tail stuff that we don't care about, and we don't have to look at it if we don't want to. So we can also, I'll just use this one randomly. So I'm going to say, all right, now this part is what the director said was the best shot, best moment of the scene. So I'm going to hit the F key, and I'm going to mark that a favorite. Now you're going to see the green comes up there. So let's just take a quick breeze through this to see something. So I got a bunch of stuff that's been rejected, the reds. I'm going to just mark some random favorites here. This is great. This is great. This is great.
And none of this, none of the red stuff, this is non-destructive. You're not getting rid of footage from your system. You're not deleting anything. You're just saying, I don't want to see it when I'm working, because it's in the way. But if you really need it, you can get back to it.
Right. And so now you may notice, like, we got some green, we got some yellow, we got some red. This is showing us everything because it says all clips up here. But what I want to do first is hide the rejected. So hide the red bits. All right. So now all the red bits are gone.
And all the black frames you saw, gone. We're just looking at usable.
They're being hidden. Yeah, they're being hidden. It's usable stuff, right? Over here, the greens, they're called favorites. So now I'm just looking at my hero stuff for this scene. That's it, nothing else. And I can build this into a select reel if I want, just in about 5 seconds. So I'm just going to select all. Let's see. Select all and hit the E key. Damn it, I don't have a timeline open. All right, let's cut that part out. Crap. Let's see. Okay, so there we go. So I'm going to select all and hit the E key. So that just took all that stuff and just dropped it at the end of my timeline.
Yeah, that means all the scene you had at the beginning is untouched. You're not going to overwrite it. However long your timeline is, E throws it at the very tail end, and you're not going to overwrite anything by mistake. Just a quick shortcut. Right.
And so we looked at everything, hiding the rejected, which is the most common way that people work. Favorites, you can look at only what's rejected. You can look at what hasn't been used yet. So this stuff hasn't been used in the cut. There is no dupe detection in Final Cut, and I know people are lobbying for it. Hopefully it comes one day.
I'm lobbying for it.
I'm lobbying for it. And then there's you can look at stuff that doesn't have any ratings or keywords. So
wait, there's no dupe detection in the sequence, but to be thorough, it will show you when you say you look at unused. It will show you what hasn't been used from your event in the cut that's there now. So it will show you in the edit you have at the moment, these shots here in the event have not been used. Just once you're in the actual sequence, it won't show you if you have a shot in there twice.
Right, right. So this is one way to annotate and organize. And another nice part about this, if you look at these things in list view, and I'm just going to select all and hit the right arrow, all those green things are favorites. Now, favorites are just called favorites by default, but you can also change them. Change the name of that. So you can mark different favorites with different names, different descriptions. There's a notes field that you can type into. That note will be attached to the favorite. Now this other symbol in here is a keyword that we talked a little bit about last episode, and this indicates that this is a synced clip. That's it was done automatically by Sync and Link X, but you can use keywords for a lot of different things. Up here, I think we just went on a little tangent and marked a bunch of keywords for this shot here. So this is just an example. So we keyworded this. This is a 2-shot. It's in the day. It's at a diner. It's an interior. It's an over the shoulder. It's a synced shot. You can use keywords for anything. It's a user definable thing.
And some of that can come from the script notes, from whoever your script supervisor. If you use Sync and Link, it will actually add that automatically. And you can change and you can add to them. Yeah, there's this program called Shot Notes X, which will merge CSV files with Final Cut XML and bring a whole bunch of data in here. But I think, keywords, you got to use your imagination a little bit. Some examples, I wrote down some examples here. Day, date, shot size, like medium, wide. Character name, is it a plate? Is it for marketing? Does it require approval? Is it an alternate for something, maybe off script, off book? Line numbers. There's a million things you can use keywords for. I use as an example the documentary. So the documentary on the Egyptian pyramids. So you can have interior, exterior. You can have the names of the pyramids, Khufu, Khafre, Menkaure. They're all parts of compounds. You can have the name of the pyramid compound. These can all be attached to any one clip or a portion of the clip So for me, I can't tell the pyramids apart if the director says, hey, I need shots of the Khufu pyramid here, and they have to be interior, and it has to be the king's chamber. That's easy. I would go to the Khufu keyword and look for king's chamber. You can do it manually, or you can set up the smart collection to have the filters and have everything in that shot. So you're not building separate bins for every one of these possibilities. You don't need a separate bin for your drone footage and your exterior footage and your interior footage and your day and your night. You just keyword it, and your separate bin is your smart collection. You change the filters. For documentaries, there really is nothing better than that.
You know, one of the good examples that I like about that is in Avid, when you're working on a big show and there's music, there's a gigantic bunch of music library, and so it always gets organized sort of like triple into like 3 different bins or 3 different structures where you've got by composer, by genre,
by mood,
and then by mood, exactly. And so, like, you know, I want something by Alan Silvestri from a horror movie, you know, and then so you have to sort of search around, and you can, anything like that, you can tag with keywords,
or in a
which is
reality
handy.
show, you have the song saying dramatic or moving or intense or action, and the same song might be in all 4 of those bins.
Or parts of things as well. So if you let's say, you know, you have a cue where it's very intense and then very playful and very whatever, you can mark those parts of each cue with a keyword, because keywords are not just for the whole thing, they're for parts as well. So that's a kind of a big deal if you want to, you know, all right, this part is intense and this part is sad.
Yeah.
And so then you don't have to like go through and break those out. Pretty handy stuff.
Incredible stuff, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so all right, so we're going to move on from all the footage into a couple other areas of the browser, which number 1 over here, you've got, this is where all of your libraries live. This is other media browser. It accesses your photos, any Logic songs, GarageBand music. Now, Final Cut comes with a big sound effects library. Got some handy stuff in it, but everybody has their own sound effects library.
I love the sound effects library. It's not, some of them are great, some of them are but they're there at instant.
Yeah.
And you can preview them.
Right.
This thing's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a list of all the built-in sound effects. So up here, little drop menu.
You're about to think something I don't know again.
Probably. And so these are like categories that are built in with it. But this one is not a category that was built in. This is one that I added to it. You got to jump through a couple of hoops to get this to work, to get your own sound effects in there. But you can add your own sound effects into the effects library here, and then everything is there. Like these came from the BBC, and we'll post. I'll post how to get to this, but you kind of have to dig into the top level of your hard drive library, Apple application support, some blah blah blah, and then you put your folders in there. You restart Final Cut, and everything is there. I wish they would make it easier to do that, but it's doable. And another cool thing is, you can get to, this used to say iTunes, now you go to the music app. So what it does is it will load up all your songs, everything is searchable. So anything you've got in your iTunes on your machine, you can access here, and all this stuff, when it comes into your timeline, is going to have the correct role. Effects are going to show up as effects. Music is going to show up as music. And one little tip on this is, in iTunes or the music app, I'll have to check this on the music app, I know it works on iTunes, you can define the storage location as in the library or somewhere else. In a shared storage situation, I'll always define it as on the shared storage, so then multiple people can access that same bunch of media into their iTunes library, which will then flow through into Final Cut.
Music's instant. You don't have to import it. You don't have to load it in. You can always make an event. You can make a bin. You can make an event and load in a bunch of sound effects or a bunch of music. That is always available to you. But
Yeah.
you need a quick sound of a car or someone laughing or a door
Yeah.
closing. You got a bunch of options here. You throw it in really quick. You can preview them right there in the window without having to import. If you want to just look at hit impact, there you go. Whole bunch of hit impacts. You can go from one to the next again without double clicking. And here,
Yeah.
find the one you want. Mike just did a quick
Instead of
filter.
a search up there for the word impact.
This
And
is
these will
great.
play out.
Yeah.
Can you hear that? That was loud. And so, these are all your impacts. I wish there was some more functionality here, like the ability to make groups, make keywords, make filters in this area. There's not, but it would be nice if there was, Apple, if you're listening. And so moving on from there, I've never used anything from Logic or GarageBand, but it's probably because I don't know how to use those very well, but it is here if you need it. And last step here within the browser is the titles and the generators. So Final Cut comes with a huge amount of titling capabilities, a lot of pre-built stuff, a lot of 3D stuff where you can control all of the aspects, the lighting, the surface, the direction of reflections and all that stuff. I have not spent a ton of time in there, but just enough to wreck some things. But so a lot of third-party people build great stuff here as well. The FX Factory is a good place to look. Ripple Training is a good place to look. And the graphics that we're using on these videos came from Ripple Training. The Titlemations here and the Ripple callouts, super helpful, super handy, easy to use.
And notice what we did. If you go to the titles, all the way at the very top there, you're seeing everything. But if you want to narrow it down quickly, just click on one of the subcategories to the left, and it's only going to show you what's in that category. So
right, and also
by this big screen.
Yeah, also searchable, and also if you're working in 4K and above, you can just filter these down into 4K only. So it's only going to show you the high-res stuff, which is handy. Generators here, I don't use generators a whole lot, but there's some good stuff. Oh, Paint X, one of the best apps ever by Cormelt. Super powerful paint tool.
I just did a project with a bunch of generators, by the way.
Yeah, oh, you did? Yeah. Good, you have to teach me that.
It was fun.
Yeah, and so we've, I think, reached the end of the browser, and not bad. Hopefully it was helpful.
For something that's sexy, there's a lot there that's cool.
There's a lot there, and there's a lot of questions, and it's really deep, and I am absolutely certain we missed some good stuff. Yeah. So hopefully people will leave comments below.
Right. Like, subscribe, comment, whatever. If you want to ask questions, put it there. We'll try to get to it.
Right. In any case, thanks again, Mike. And next time we're going to see... next time I think we're going to do the viewer and then the timeline.
Timeline is very sexy.
Maybe we'll do viewer and timeline together.
Timeline is Mike Mastorf cosplaying as the Incredible Hulk. Sexy.
All right. Well, on that note, thanks again for watching, and we will see you next time.
Peace.